differentiate between a hex and a curse, right? A hex tends to be less harsh, right? So y'all may have seen movies and things like that. They could be accurate more or less, right? Witches tend to put hexes to kind of slow somebody down in a rumor about you, and it's harming your reputation. And they decide that they want to slow your speech or make you more forgetful. That would be an example of a hex, right? However, a curse can go as far as harming your entire reputation, to extreme bad luck, to physical harm, to death, right? Now, how are some people able to do curses? Well, there's different methods. It depends on what kind of magician, witch you are, right? Witches tend to be a lot more practical in this aspect. They will do things like, for example, they may try to curse somebody in the aspect that they can never cause divorces, or like a method that I've seen being used is an old school method of tying knots, or nowadays it could be tying balloons and putting it outside of somebody's home or somewhere within it, and adding some sort of material from that person, organic material from that person, to the knot. Putting the curse directly on the item, and an intent to prevent the person from being able to breastfeed or properly give birth, excuse me. So these are ways that that are kind of weird. Now, being able to tell if you are cursed is very, very difficult in certain ways, right? It could be so a lot of times you may have to go to a witch themselves, or some sort of tarot reader or black magician themselves, right? One of the main issues that I run into is that people need to differentiate that people cause curses in different ways. Some may cause them in, like, for example, you have different types of quote unquote black magic left hand path, right? You got, your witchcraft, right? Then you have your black magic, and then you have your demonic, goetic, whatever you want to call it, right? They can all be intermingled depending on who you ask, but at the same time they are kind of within the same realm. Some people do all three. Some people do one. Others will tell you that you can't mix all of them. Some will say that you can only do one at a time, and such, right? Personally, I think that you can do as die will, as Aleister Crowley would say, right? Let's say that I wanted to utilize Renove. I have been using Renove for a while to assist in my language learning. And he's a lot more brutal than Boone. I tend to not really want to ask Boone for curses and hexes, because she kind of gives off asking her for a hex or a curse kind of feels like asking my mama to slap someone who pissed me off. That's kind of like how it feels. But Renove, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. I have attempted some with him, but there was only one that did not land, and I knew it didn't land was during a scrying session, or during ritual, right? Mental downloads. He had definitely told me that this was not something he was going to do. Reasons for that: my intentions could have been off. This wasn't going to add something, or it was just simply not in his domain and his power to do, right? So, but witches are more folk, more practical, more of the earth. They don't ask. They may have assistance from spirits, but they utilize their own will and things like that in order to do it. Is it more or less powerful? Probably less powerful. However, it gets the job done, right? Now, ways that some people may notice that they are cursed, right? Now, before I get into that, right, I wanted to kind of put emphasis on the fact of the nocebo effect, right? I'm sure you have heard of the placebo effect, right? However, a lot of people have not heard of the nocebo effect, right? A lot of secular magicians will use a more psychological way of cursing you by simply telling you that you were cursed, right? Once you have been told that you were cursed, it will cause an effect the opposite of the placebo effect. Like a doctor will give you the medicine or tell you that something is helping you when in reality it's probably not, right? It's just, but your mind can cause physiological issues, right? Even anxiety can cause limbs to be paralyzed. It can happen. It can happen, right? So what y'all need to understand is that if somebody tells you that you are cursed, keep that in mind. If somebody is going to say, hey, I cursed you, which is weird, right? I don't think any actual, we'll say, mystic, actual people who don't believe that it's all in your head, psychological, these type of magicians, right? Occultists wouldn't tell somebody that they're being cursed, right? That just sounds ridiculous. Or at minimally, you'll start, let's say that you are walking and you slip and fall. Simple example. You may contribute that to the fact that someone sent you a nasty Instagram message simply to tell you that, hey, I put a curse on you or a hex on you. So keep that in mind, that if someone blatantly tells you that you are cursed, make sure that you don't convince yourself that it already happened, because this can cause things to happen psychologically speaking. So sometimes there are generational curses. So you could have just simply had a curse that's been on you for ages now, and you may not have noticed it, or it may not have, you just always assumed you were unlucky and things like that. But a lot of the times, curses tend to be more synchronized, right? Instead of just being like little spats of bad luck here and there, you'll start to notice that no matter what you do, evil or bad starts to happen around you. Now, what I say is that if you do believe that you are cursed, right? Let's say you believe in this stuff, right? Because I always keep in mind that there's a lot of secular people that may come across this video and whatever. If you do think so, make sure that you use the scientific method. I use it in all of my rituals regardless. I am a biology student, so I always, still to this day, keep a scientific way of thinking no matter what I do. So if you have a theory, test that theory, go through the whole process before you have already convinced yourself that it's happened. Again, the nocebo effect. But if you notice that certain things line up and it's a consistent type of thing, you are consistently having, you're consistently failing at work, or you are consistently slurring your speech, or you are consistently, because typically curses and hexes don't target your entire life. They tend to target a certain aspect of your life, because that magician, witch, will put their intent into that aspect, that direct thing in your life. So if you're just having bad luck left and right, you may just be stupid. You don't even know. You might just be stupid and nobody told you were stupid. But it could also be the fact that you have been cursed. Now, for me to actually explain how to reverse one, it requires an entire video within itself, but my channel is new, so I really don't want to be making extremely long videos before I have more viewers because, I need to keep the algorithm going. But I hope I kind of got into certain ways to help you understand that maybe you may need to seek out help if you have deemed that you haven't had it, right? You could be consistent to things like nightmares. Nightmares are typically symbolic, right? Yeah, or if you're having certain numbers. I made an entire video about numbers and how they correlate in their correspondences with things, right? So just keep that in mind, right? And there are different types of ways that people will do it. But one simple way that I have tried is to tarot, right? Tarot cards are a good way to figure it out in a very quick method. But however, if you're not trained in them, you're not going to be able to get a good reading. If you have not cleansed those cards, I cleanse all of my decks, right? So I have an occult tarot deck, and I have a normal tarot deck, I guess, right? I cleanse all of them, right? So incense, chanting, enchantments, things like that. So, or else tricksters and things like that can give you false readings and shit like that. So I just wanted to get a video out and explain these types of things. Keep in mind that do your own research. Don't just stop at this video, obviously, because I was very vague. I didn't really get into too much details in it. That you may have cursed yourself and you don't even know it. The mind is way more powerful and way more in depth than people will think. And if you choose to ignore your own problems and your own way of life and your own issues, whether that's through narcissistic personality disorder or whatever reason you're denying your own truths, you have already laid out a symbolic curse on yourself. So make sure you're reflecting on yourself before you assume that somebody exteriorly, somebody with magical training, has cursed you. But there has been times where it was obvious things where people have found dolls, voodoo dolls, different types of things in their homes and things like that. If you have an obvious object that you found in your home or somewhere nearby, you have obviously been had something done to you, right? So keep that in mind. I hope you guys found this video a little bit insightful. I was a bit vague, but I'm doing my best to try to get some information out. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.